Hello student, welcome to Scholars Universal School online class, and this is literature in English. So we are continuing with our text Look Back in Anger by John Osborne, and today we are looking at the themes. So we are looking at the themes. Now the first theme, the text, like I must have like I taught you now. I taught you the motifs, in the of the text, and which what you are seeing on the screen now is one of the motifs, the angry young man motif, and the kitchen drama motif. All right, now, and also the theme, one of the themes is the angry young man. Okay, now Osborne's play was the first to explore the theme of the angry young man. This term describes a generation of post-World War II artists and working class men who generally ascribed ascribed to leftist, sometimes anarchist politics and social views. Okay, according to cultural critics, these young men were not a part of any organized movement, but were instead individuals angry at a post-Victorian Britain that refused to acknowledge their social and class alienation. Jimmy Porter is often considered to be literature's seminal example of the angry young man. Jimmy is angry at the social and political structures that he believes has kept him from achieving his dreams and aspirations. He directs his anger towards his friends and most notably his wife, Alison. So the theme of angry young man is very much typical of the British young men, which was actually typical. Which was exemplified now, just exemplified by Jimmy Porter, our main character of the text Look Back in Anger, and this shows the content, the dissatisfaction for the contempt, for the British modus operandi, that is mode of operation, and the inactivity of the cultural setting that British now finds himself. So the kitchen sink drama. Now, a kitchen sink drama is a term used to denote plays that rely on realism to explore domestic social relations. So like I'd explained earlier on why explaining the motifs of the text. So the realism that the kitchen sink drama tends to project brings us to the actual fact that the play Look Back in Anger tends to capture the domestic life of the middle class, of the commoners or ordinary people of the British society, society, and it is not portraying in a lighter or probably in a favorable manner the middle class, but rather it is projecting the hardship, the hardship that is faced by the commoners and the ordinaries in the society, which are typical, which our character now, Jimmy Porter, is an example. Okay, now Kitchen sink drama is a term used to denote plays that rely on realism to explore domestic social relations. Realism in British theatre was first experimented with in the late 19th and early 20th century by such playwrights as George Bernard Shaw. Yes, this genre attempted to capture the lives of the British upper class in a way that realistically reflected the ordinary drama of ruling class British society. According to many critics, by the mid-20th century, the genre of realism had become tired and unimaginative. Osborne's play returned imagination to the realist genre by capturing the anger and immediacy of post-war youth culture and the alienation that resulted in the British working classes. Look Back in Anger was able to comment on a range of domestic social dilemmas in this time and period. So, unlike the mode of creating a realistic, drama, which was more peculiar to the upper class, the painting of the upper class in such, a pleasing mode, was then overridden by Look Back in Anger, that is John Osborne's Look Back in Anger, in which way he was able to bring some level of decency to the kitchen sink drama by capturing the typical domestic life, by capturing realism through the typical domestic lives of the ordinary British working classes. Now, so most importantly, it was able to capture through the character of Jimmy Porter the anger of this generation that festered just below the surface of elite British culture. So it brings to the surface, the unpalatable, welfareism that the ordinaries, which are the working class, experiences or enjoy now. So enjoy in quotes, while the middle class or the upper class are the top aim of controlling the affairs and the resources of the British society, and that generally tells us that the working class suffers the most. Now, another theme is loss of childhood. This is a very significant theme in the text. This is a very significant theme in the text. A theme that impacts the characters of Jimmy and Alison Porter is the idea of a lost childhood. Yes, Osborne uses specific examples: the death of Jimmy's father when Jimmy was only 10, and how he was forced to watch the physical and mental demise of the man, to demonstrate the way in which Jimmy is forced to deal with suffering from an early age. So this is very impactful, and it also necessitated the attitude and the so-called anger that so much festered in the hearts and in the mind of Jimmy Porter, our major character. And it did not just happen. There is a cause, or there are causes that necessitated the anger. One, the fact that the British society is not thing to write home about, and because of their negligence in putting into structure policies, plans that could help the likes of Jimmy, according to Jimmy, who is actually enraged and embittered by the structure of the British society. Also, there is loss of childhood, through the fact that he experiences the death or the demise of his father at a very tender age, um, corroborated or increases his mental suffering. Yes, his mental suffering, and also his physical his physical enrage towards people around him. Yes, towards people around him. So this also affects Alison Porter in a very terrible manner as well. So Alison's loss of childhood is best seen in the way that she was forced to grow up too fast by marrying Jimmy. Her youth is wasted in the anger and abuse that her husband levels upon her. So now the loss of childhood. Now Alison's loss of childhood, could be seen in the way she tends to hurriedly. Yes, she tends to hurriedly conform with marriage. Yeah. So with the way she tends to hurriedly conform with marriage, and the resultant effect of a marriage with a marriage to Jimmy is one that shows the impact, or that shows the negative effect of of our poor childhood, of our inability to experience life filled with good childhood memories. So our youth is wasted in the anger and abuse that her husband levels upon her. So in the text, one would would understand very well that Alison suffers a lot in the hands of Jimmy Porter, with the way he maltreats, and undoes her, regardless of her tenderness, and regardless of her condition. And I'm speaking of with her pregnancy. So that shows how very malhandled she was, or she how very malhandled she was taken care of, or probably abused by the husband, Jimmy. Okay, Osbornes suggests that a generation of British youth has experienced this same loss of childhood innocence. Osborne uses the examples of World War, the development of the atomic bomb, and the decline of British Empire to show how an entire culture has lost the innocence that other generations were able to maintain. Now, if you understand the significance of youthful innocence. Now, the youthful innocence, as described here, has a significant effect on the youth of the British society, such that the loss of the youthful innocence was not that they planned for. It was due to the uprising war and the resultant effect of such emergence, that upturned how this youth experienced life, how they spent their life, and how they react how they reacted um, to to life and to the society. You can see that is where the idea of um, the angry young man, comes in. Okay, now another theme is real life. Now in the play, the importer is consumed with desire to live a more real and full life. So every day he begins, he sees himself, as something that is not coexisting with the present reality. So he tries as much as possible to force, that thing out of himself, and by what? By being angry. But then, he hates himself the more. He what? He tries to force, reality out of himself. Now he compares this born desire to the empty actions and attitudes of others. So he always gets angry at people, especially at Cliff, and especially Allison. Yeah, Allison as well. So at first, he generalizes this emptiness by criticizing the lax writing and opinions of those in the newspapers. So that shows in the three the first act and the second act, you see that Jamie Potter is often seen reading newspaper with Cliff, even to the I think to the last act as well, which is the third act. So it shows that he is always is always criticizing the carelessness in the writing and opinions of those in the newspapers. He bullshits them. He condemns and becomes very much enriched at such unintelligent approach to to situations and issues that affect Iman generally. So then it then turns his angry gaze to those around him and close to him. That is the likes of Alison, Elena, and Cliff. But Alison suffers the most. Now, Osborne's argument in the play for a real life is one in which men are allowed to feel a full range of emotions. So Osborne, the writer now, John Osborne, is of the opinion that through the character of Jimmy, is of the opinion that one could actually exercise is full is the fullness of life by what? By exerting or exhibiting um, emotions, by exhibiting emotions that matters to him. And what matters to Jimmy Potter? That's being angry. The fact that he's always angry with everything, always he wants everything to change according on his own terms. Excuse me. The most real of these emotions is anger, and Jimmy believes that this anger is his way of truly living. You can see this idea was unique in British theatre during the play's original run. So it was the idea of anger was ideal. For anyone who actually wants change, then he or she must be angry, to achieve such, must be angry with the present situation, and then such anger would drive and foster change needed. All right. Now, Osborne argued in essays and criticisms that until his play, British theatre had subsumed the emotions of characters, rendering them less realistic. Jimmy's desire for a real life is an attempt to restore raw emotion to the theater. So, according to Osborne, he believes that writers have the right and the utmost responsibility of exhibiting rage, anger, frustration, as a way of expressing a real and unsentimental lifestyle that they should actually portray. So in such case, he uses Jimmy, to recapture and to rejuvenate such emotion and such method of living a real life, according to him. Now, sloth in British culture. So by sloth we mean inactivity, laziness, idleness. So now, the inactivity in the British culture, as Jimmy Porter compares his quest for a more vibrant and emotional life to the slothfulness of the world around him. The inactivity of the world around him, and that is one thing that frustrates Jimmy Porter, that annoys Jimmy Porter, that makes him so angry. He feels angry, embittered, dissatisfied with the British culture, the slothfulness of the British culture, is one thing that enrages Jimmy Porter. It's important to know that Jimmy does not see the world around him as dead, but merely asleep in some fundamental way. So he believes something could actually change, but people are not ready, or the society is not ready to propel change as required of it. So this is a fine line that Osborne walks throughout the play. So it is always indicating the slothfulness of the British culture, towards change, the inactivity, the dead sleep of the British culture towards to move from what it used to be to something very energizing. Now, Jimmy never argues that there is a nihilism within British culture. Instead, he sees a kind of slothfulness of character. Yes, his anger is an attempt to awaken those around him from this cultural sleep. So his anger is very much symbolic. It's very much symbolic, and it's more of a revolutionary anger. Anger that serves as a clamor, as a call to as a call for change, a clamor for change in the traditional, in the cultural British society. He believes that things can actually change, but people around him are not ready until they are forced, and they are propelled to foster change around them. This slothfulness of emotion is best seen in the relationship between Alison and Cliff. Alison describes her relationship with Cliff as comfortable. They are physically and emotionally affectionate with each other, but neither seems to want to take their passion to another level of intimacy. In this way, their relationship is lazy. So, such example of slothfulness could be seen in the, as described here, between Alison and Cliff. We all know that Alison is, Jimmy's wife, and Cliff is Jimmy's friend, best friend now. So such intimacy never comes up between them, as they are what they are very much careful, and they are unable to proceed or foster any further kind of intimacy that could jeopardize the relationship between Alison and Jimmy, and Cliff and Jimmy. They cannot awaken enough passion to consummate their affair. Yes, they cannot awaken enough passion to consummate their affair, even though it is illegitimate. Even though it is illegitimate, then yet they take their time. They are able to desist from what, from consummating and desecrating the affair between Jimmy and Alison, and between Cliff and Jimmy. So Jimmy seems to subconsciously understand this, which is the reason he is not jealous of their affection towards one another. So Jimmy understands that, okay, these two have close relationship, but they are very much unable to proceed to consummating their affair, and which is quite which epitomizes this serves as a typical example of the British society that is unable to proceed to propel up, foster a lasting relationship, that will help resuscitate its economy, its youthful life, and its cultural heritage. Now, the rise and fall of the British Empire. Now, the character of Colonel Redfern, Alison's father, represents the decline of and nostalgia for the British Empire. The colonel had been stationed for many years in India, a symbol of Britain's imperial reach into the world. The Edwardian age, which corresponded to Britain's height of power, had been the happiest of his life. So, the rise and fall of the British Empire shows that there was a time that Britain had dominated the world, and it was this time that the likes of Colonel Redfern, wished that they could, which could come back to life, and come to take place or shape in the present. His nostalgia is representative of the denial that Osbornes sees in the psyche of the British people. The world has moved on into an American age, he argues, and the people of the nation cannot understand why they are no longer the world's greatest power. So there is the idea of anger still dominates this concept, as as John Osborne begins to use the likes of Jimmy as a general populace to question why the British culture, or Britain itself, as as once a world power, now nowhere to be found, that what are the changes that Britain need to make to what, to follow in line with the present development that America has, has put in place. So these questions and this anger are usually the major concern of John Osborne, and basically that of Jimmy Porter. Now, masculinity in art. Osborne has been accused by critics of misogynistic views in his plays. Now, what do we mean by masculinity? By masculinity in art, it is this concept shows that art is peculiar to the male gender. Art is peculiar to the male gender. So, and this could be seen in the text itself as the character of Cliff, of Jimmy, condemns and downplays the women in the women in the text, such as Allison, Elena, and even Allison's mother. But then we could say that Jimmy was able to whittle down or probably lessen this suspicion by his unusual interest in Mrs. Ugg. Now, Osborne has been accused by critics of misogynistic views in his plays. Many point to Look Back in Anger as the chief example. These critics accuse Osborne of glorifying young male anger and cruelty towards women and homosexuals. This is seen in the play in specific examples in which Jimmy Porter emotionally distresses Allison, his wife, and delivers a grisly monologue in which he wishes for Allison's mother's death. Can you see? So now in this portion of the text suggests the ideal of Osborne, which might likely not be true. So, but then that is what is taught of Osborne, and this could be seen in the text as well, as he uses Jimmy to downplay the female gender. He uses Jimmy to override the female gender, and he uses Jimmy to show that it is only responsible of the male gender to exercise or voice out opinions that are very, very important to the growth of the society. Now, Osborne, however, asserts that he is attempting to restore a vision of true masculinity into a 20th century culture that he sees as becoming increasingly feminized. This feminization is seen in the way that British culture shows an indifference is seen in the way that British culture shows an indifference to anything but immediate personal suffering. This causes a deadness within which Jimmy's visceral anger and masculine emotion is a retaliation against. So, Osborne's idea of condemning or lashing at the feministic input of of the characters suggests that is what is proposing a a patriarchal kind of ideal that is quite unacceptable. All right, thank you for paying attention. So those are the themes, so you can take your time to study the themes and use your exam focus. Yes, you can get more of the themes from your exam focus. So thank you very much. So see you next time. Now you can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and visit our website or call the numbers on the screen. Thank you very much.